Good morning. I take it all of you know who I am. Thank you for coming. We're going to work through the workbook that you all have. We're going to do some activities to give you a jump start on what you're going to have to follow through and continue on at home. We don't have but 60 minutes, so if you don't mind, we're going to get at it. Here's one of the pieces of information that I did not put up in the opening session. I want to put this information up now to give you a sense of urgency, why we have to do what we have to do. In the state of Georgia, for every 400 ninth graders, currently only 25 are projected to graduate from college. And that college graduation rate is not a 4-year rate, it's a 6-year rate. So that means when you have a ninth grader, you can look forward to living with them for the next 10 years to help to get them through college, but still, that's a low rate. And I want to show you how we wound up there. In the state of Georgia, here are the graduation rates. I put these up before. You'll see that they vary greatly by race and gender within the race. So depending upon your race or your ethnic group, you see that the graduation rate goes from a high of 75% for Asian students to 22% for Native American students. You'll see that Hispanic students are right around 40%. Black, not Hispanic, right around 46%, and then white students are 63%. But then you'll see that there's this gap between male and female students between each racial group. And so no matter where you are, there's going to be this kind of gap. So when you look at that, last year on the 2007 ACT, now the ACT, keep this in mind, these are not students who had already dropped out of high school. These are students who are high school seniors who are planning to go to college. But what they found was that in the state of Georgia, only 23%, that's roughly 2 out of every 10 high school seniors in the state of Georgia are ready to go to college. That really says that, okay, we got to make sure we have some early intervention before they get to that level. So then here is what we know about the state of Georgia. From one research study, we see that public universities in the state, like UGA, University of West Georgia, that they're graduating students in 6 years at a rate of about 49%. So when you talk about a 6-year graduation rate at 49%, only 23% being ready to go to college when they're high school seniors, a low high school graduation rate, then depending upon who your children are, you see there are many, many different hurdles and obstacles they have to navigate. And here's how you do the math. 400 ninth graders, 225 projected to graduate from high school, 52 who are prepared to enter into a 4-year college, and then 25 who actually graduate from college 6 years later. And keep this in mind, the University of Georgia has become one of the most difficult schools in Georgia to get into. The 4-year graduation rate at the University of Georgia is less than 50%. So here it is, the most difficult school to get into, and still it's low. And if your child is black, it's lower. Black children graduate. The Atlanta Journal-Constitution profiled a few years ago that on the football team at UGA, 100% of the white players graduated, only 8% of the black players graduated. So see, you really have to look at each school that your child would go to and what might happen. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to knock out 5 steps in the workbook that you have, and then you're going to have a lot of homework after you go home. In the first step, we're going to look at some of these issues because, see, when we look at learning styles, multiple intelligences, learning style elements, personality types, what it all really means is this. Every kid in your household has a unique combination of all of these things, which means, how many of you have been guilty of saying, in one ear, out the other? Or how about, you're wearing on my last? If I'd have told you once, I'd have told you well, see, let me tell you about that one. If I tell you and you don't get it, then that might mean that you're a visual learner, not an auditory learner. That means I can talk to you as long as I want to, but it just doesn't register. You need to see it in print. Some children need lists posted on their wall, on the mirror, on the floor, on the refrigerator. Many children spend more time going in and out of the refrigerator than in and out of book. So you may need the list posted on the refrigerator. So we're going to look at how can we deal with some of these things. So the first activity I want you to do is I want you to check off those things on page 4 that relate to things we say about children. Just check off those things that you've been guilty of saying or that you've heard someone else say in your household. Well, keep it right in the family for right now. So read each of those statements and check off things that you said. And it's important for us to be honest. This is not graded. It's not a graded assignment. I'm going to come look over your shoulder and say, all right, you got an F in parenting. I just wanted to check off what is. It is what it is. And if you all have young people in the room with you, you can get them to work with you. They don't have to just sit here like they don't have anything to do. You can make them read. Okay, we only have an hour, so we're going to be moving. It's 13 statements. How many of you checked at least half? All right, a couple of people. How many of you checked about a third or a fourth? Okay, the rest of you just don't want to be honest. All right, go ahead. That's all right. I know better. Okay, we're going to jump here. See, here's the point about these, is that the statements are here only to assess, are we guilty of saying some things that really don't have any foundation in how to change it? So that's all that these statements are. I want you to go to the next activity. We're going to move on. And these are both for my son. So that is what helps keep me focused, looking at what I got to do for him, what I have to do for him. On page 6, do the same thing on page 6. So these are things that we say to children. The other one was things we say about children. Now these are things we say to children. Those of you who have your children here, I probably should ask them to check this one off. Okay, here we go. How many of you checked off at least half of those statements? Oh, we got a few more, huh? We have a few more. See, now, here's one of the things that oftentimes we do. We compare our children to when we were children. For most of us, that was more than just a few years ago. So you're talking about a different place, a different time, different issues. Also, oftentimes, we compare how good or poorly we were to our children. And we do it one or two ways. We either do it to hold them to a standard that's higher, or we excuse them. And here's how we do it. Well, when I was in school, I wasn't that good at math either. So we say, well, that's why my baby's not good at math. Look, the math today is different than when we were in school. This one, we say to children, you don't, and this is something that's real big with teachers, you don't deserve another chance. Whenever you reach a point to where you say to a child, you don't deserve another chance, what you're doing is you're holding them to the standard of an adult brain. Children's brains are continually being developed. We have to reach, understand this. I'm a parent, so I know how frustrating it gets. And I give you this example. A couple of weeks ago, my son came home, and my wife and I lay out everything. We help him organize his binders. We lay out the note sheets. We do everything. All he has to do is fill the thing out. And he came home, and I was at wit's end. He brought home, I looked through his binders. He hadn't done anything that we had said that he had to do. Almost, and it was one of those where you want to slap him. You just really want to. So I had to say, okay, I went to God. God, what can I do? Because I'm going to hurt him. I took him over to Centennial High School. I had him put on his sneakers, his shorts, his T-shirt. And he did stadiums. I took him over there to a football stadium. He ran up one side, across, down the other side. I had him do it for 2 hours. I sat there. It was a nice day. I sat there in the sun. I read a book. And every time he ran by me, I said, man, I'm tired. Dad, how you tired? You're not doing anything. I said, keep on going. I had some cool water, and I just had him run. Then finally, when he said, I can't do it anymore, I had him do sit-ups. And then when he said, I can't do that anymore, I had him do push-ups. And then when he said, Dad, I can't do that anymore, I said, go run again. And he was out and he was running, but he got it. So what I'm suggesting to you is you got to figure out what works with your kid. Usually hitting them is not effective. Now I know some of you would say, well, he brought his grade up after I hit him a couple times. Usually that's not what's effective. What's effective is making a connection between what you want them to do and what they